What's up, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, and the overall market. Just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15 in total, not to mention an 8.1% APY on uninvested cash. The offer ends very soon, in just about 2.5 weeks from now. Anyways, now let's talk about what's happening with the market. So, looking at SPY, we have a double top leg structure that's looking a little bit more bearish. We do favor downside a bit more. However, we are attempting to rebound a little bit during this pre-market session. Now, SPY is struggling to break past our 20 EMA in the 4-hour time frame. So we'll be watching to see how we react from here. But I just want to talk about why on earth it's still very possible that we establish a lower high and we could be on our way back down lower as time goes on. So I'll talk more about that in just a minute. Just know that for today, it is Tuesday, December 10th, 2024. We have the 42-day bill auction at 11:30 a.m. And then at noon, we have the WASDE report, not to mention the 3-year notes auction. So we'll see what volatility this causes, but so far, the market does look a little bit more bearish just looking at the structure, despite how the data may be coming out. And then don't forget, we have CPI tomorrow before market open. Besides that, we have some retail announcing earnings for today. We had AutoZone in the morning. Then we have GameStop after market close. For the most part, the earnings are going to be a little bit more minor today, so I'm not really too worried about them. So with that being said, the question is what's going to happen from the markets moving forward? What is my prediction, at least from here? So I just want to say that the market is doing, excuse me, a decent job at trying to hold the supports from yesterday, at least during the pre-market. But the issue is that as we're trying to push, we're not doing the best of jobs at breaking our structure. So that makes me suspect that the market could be doing a thing where it makes a lower high. And once I show you guys the charts of like the QQQ and the others, you'll see what I'm talking about, as there is still that weakness that is perpetuating. So with that being said, what do I see at least for SPY and the others moving forward? The answer is that right now SPY is attempting to rebound. It's trying to get back to this 20 EMA right here, but we're struggling to hold above it. So this makes me suspect that we could be making a lower high somewhere around 605.5, if not around 606. If we reclaim 606, there will be some potential for us to try to get back up to 607 in this range. But if we come short of that, we're going to most likely reject and make our way down to 604, if not 602. So what do I think is going to happen? What is my prediction? I think that's what a lot of people are wondering. The answer is I think there might be some downside coming. I think that SPY is going to make its way all the way down closer to 604 than 602. I think that we could be establishing a lower high, and it would be very healthy for us to actually dip closer to that range because don't forget, we also have the previous highs that happen to be around the 601 area. So I think that we might get closer to that. And I think that what's going to happen is we might make a lower high here and then make our way lower. So if we reclaim 606, we could turn back up. If we fail to do that, the odds favor us making a lower high and then making our way back down to 604, then 602, if not 601, which is where the previous resistance happens to be. I favor a little pop and a drop as the most likely possibility. I think that SPY has more downside coming looking at the structure. As far as ES goes, it's the same thing. Essentially, we are rejecting so far. We're barely holding the 60-60 area, which is our 50 EMA. But just know if that fails us, we could be dipping closer to about 60-50 and then 60-40 as our main supports. So watch and see how we end up going from here. If that fails us, we could be dipping a little bit lower. But at the very end of the day, I think that this could try to push a bit before it starts dipping lower. And we could be looking for a move closer to about that 60-50 to 60-40 area before we try to get some kind of bounce. I think the odds favor downside a bit, but watch our 60-63 area. If we hold below that for over 4 hours, I do favor downside for ES. So far, the trend is a bit more bearish. Now, for Nvidia, we're trying to hold 137 as our main support, and we have 140 as our resistance. We could pop a bit and start dipping lower to 137 before we consolidate, and we'll see if we get a bounce or not back up to 140. We have a left shoulder here, we have a head here, and then maybe a right shoulder that could be forming. I think that there's a good chance that this is going to be dipping lower to about this 137 area, but we'll see if we get a bounce later on to reclaim 140. I think that we will try to base. I think that Nvidia might dip a bit then base for some time, consolidate around 137 to 140 for some time, and then we'll see if we get a bounce. There's a possible inverse end shoulder setup, but we'll have to see if we get that bounce. For Bitcoin, we're trying to push higher. We're going to be looking for an attempt to get back up to 98,464. We'll see if we reject off that or not, but overall, there is potential for us to try to push a little bit higher. For Tesla, Tesla is not looking that great. We had this high at 404. We came back down. Now we're going to be watching to see how it ends up establishing here. So it's kind of consolidating around this mid 390 area. If 390 fails us, we're at risk of coming all the way down to about 382. So I think the odds favor this consolidating, maybe dipping a little bit lower. So watch and see if that ends up being the case. 385 and 382 could be coming if those end up failing. If we turn back up, we want to reclaim 400. Otherwise, we're making a lower high here and we could be dipping lower. So give this more time to be established. Anyways, for others out there, such as NQ also happens to have a left shoulder here, a head, and then maybe a right shoulder that could be forming. And if you end up losing the support around 21,400, the odds are going to be favoring 21,344. So with this left shoulder head in or maybe a right shoulder that could be forming on NQ, the odds are favoring downside a little bit more for the 21,400 areas potential targets if 21,500 fails. For the QQQ, it's the same thing. We have a left shoulder here, a head, and maybe a right shoulder that possibly could be forming. This might attempt to test 523.5, which is where we're very close to right now during the pre-markets. But we'll see if we can try to break out above that to get to 525 or not. What might happen is we come a little bit short of getting that push. And then if we end up losing 521.5, I'm expecting 520 and then 517. So it's the left shoulder here, a head, and maybe a right shoulder that could be forming. And the odds do favor the downside if we do end up losing that support. So watch and see if that ends up being the case. If we lose 521.5, there's going to be more downside coming, so watch and see. For Apple, we are looking for essentially 248 as our resistance. If that breaks, I think we could get closer to about the 250 area, excuse me. But I think 240 is a little bit tough for Apple. So if we don't hold above that, we might push a bit before we start dipping. And then we're going to be looking at the support right here at 245, followed by 244. So if Apple cannot break 248, we might push a bit and start dipping back down. And we could be looking for those same levels to be retested. For the IWM Russell 2000, we're in a bit of a downtrend here. If you look at this channel, there's going to be a risk of us coming down closer to about this 236 area. So just keep that in mind. For coin, we have a double top leg structure. We're kind of range bound, so look for 322, and we'll see how we end up reacting to that. For Amazon, Amazon got a rejection on the this big bar right here. We could attempt to retest 227, but if we make a lower high compared to this high here off this 227 to 227.5 area, we could be dipping lower to 225 afterwards. So a little push and then a dip afterwards is very probable. For Meta, same thing. We could be making a lower high compared to this high. Unless we break 628 to turn bullish, the odds favor us kind of going a little bit lower than that to about 622 before we start turning back down to 611. So just keep that in mind. For Microsoft, we're rejecting here, so we're going to be looking for 442 then 440 is our main supports. So we could be dipping lower, and we'll have to see if we bounce or not. For Google's pumping right here, we have 186 as a potential resistance, then 188. So it looks a little bit more bullish after some AI news has come out. So we'll have to see how things end up going. Anyways, that's pretty much it for my videos. So my view of the market is that Google's a little bit strong, but the rest of the stocks out there could be making lower highs compared to before. So look for an attempt to push when we open, and if we make lower highs, we could be churning back down. And the charts do remain a little bit more bearish unless we break past some key resistance areas, which I don't really think is going to happen. So I favor lower highs to be made and a bit of a dip that's coming. Anyways, thank you all so much for listening. Have a good day and peace out.